Welcome to the Intentionists podcast, where we explore the interplay between intuition, spiritual health, and everything in between. I'm your host, Amy Schreiber.
And I'm Hilary Zwallen. Our intention is to create a dialogue that inspires you to consciously forge your path with curiosity and compassion for life and its mysteries. Welcome, Intentionists. The Autumn Equinox is coming up September 23rd. So we thought it would be fun today, Amy and I, to discuss the energy of the season, its impact on our bodies, the harvest mythology and celebrations around the world, and also, of course, ways to align and flow with the gifts of the season have to offer. So, Amy, do you want to talk about what exactly the equinox is for people who may not know?
Yes, the equinox is when the Earth's equator passes directly over the sun's center. So this creates a day and a night that is almost equal in length and marks the first day of fall in the northern hemisphere. First day of spring in the southern. So that is the equinox.
And why is it so? I mean, I know that there's so many reasons why the equinox is important. I mean, you have the obvious kind of nature reasons where it's like, this is the first signifying moving into the colder months for agrarian societies forever. That's been a huge thing because it's harvest, it's work time. I know you had a lot of notes here on the Ayurvedic principles of fall. So do you want to segue us into that?
Yes. So Ayurveda is the sister science to yoga. And under the system, there are three elemental components that make up everything. And these are called the doshas. And there's vata, pitta, and kapha. So they call fall the vata season, which is governed by the wind element. The qualities of vata are dryness, clarity, lightness, cold, and mobility. So just think of wind and what wind is like, and that's basically what vata is. So in the surroundings, like outside, we can see that as the fire, which is pitta, as the fire of summer fades and water starts to dry and freeze, the air and this kind of sense of space really becomes the most dominant thing going on. And weather becomes more erratic, more windy, and more dry. And so these same qualities are kind of mirrored in our physical bodies. So they say an imbalance in vata during this time can show up as anxiety, restlessness, insomnia. So the trick here is just to balance these qualities with other balancing things. So balance the cold with eating warming foods, warming spices, warm clothes. Balance the dryness with oil. Eat some oil, put oil on your body.
By the way, because of this research, I took a bath with a bunch of oil in it last night because I remembered us talking about how, I notice how I feel like I'm super, just like a sensitive, my husband's always just like, you are the most sensitive person I know. Like you're influenced by everything, the moon, the seasons, the air, your thoughts, if you eat a cookie, I mean, it's just, right. HSPs, right. In the house. Anyway, so I remember us talking about this in research, and I tried this last night because I was like, I've been having some insomnia again. I had finally calmed it down for the summer. And just this idea that we do have to really, there is something about really shifting our behavior for the seasons. And it's not just obvious stuff like put on a jacket because you're cold. But right. I mean, like you said, the warming foods. So I had some more comfort food last night and it was very filling instead of I've been doing a lot of juicing this summer because it was so hot. And I've been doing this tea. And so then last night I took this bath and I put tons of oil in it. And afterwards I was really rubbing my body with the oil and I slept like a baby last night. And I was so happy because,
oh, nice.
If you deal with insomnia, it's when you actually get a good night's sleep, it just feels like a freaking miracle. So anyway, I just wanted to pass that along. I love this concept of Ayurveda and really just the idea that you have your own principle, your own body type. Mm-hmm. And then it needs to be adjusted seasonally. And it can be kind of simple adjustments that have massive impact in your health and your wellness.
Yeah, I love Ayurveda because it accounts for those individual differences, like you said. And a lot of this stuff is, there are things that we automatically know to do. It's like kind of innate wisdom that we have in our bodies. Like, oh, yeah, it's cold.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, we're going to eat some soup instead of a salad right now. But
Right.
yeah, there are a few little helpful tricks, like the oil massage is a really good one, as you learned. And then being really intentional in your scheduling and your sleep schedule, especially because the windy restlessness can kind of take a hold of you. And I don't know about you, but this last 2 weeks, I have felt just this amazing surge of energy. Like there was one thunderstorm here. We're in Valencia, Spain now. And so we actually have a fall. And so the leaves are starting to turn. There was the couple thunderstorms. And suddenly I had this huge burst of energy. I started all these new projects. I set all these ambitious goals. I've been up till like 1 a.m. And my dominant constitution under this Ayurvedic system is the vata and pitta. So that's this time of year. So I wonder if it's just like extra crazy, or I could just be having a manic episode. I don't know. Either way,
well, you never know, right? Because there's always the question. But it's. I mean, I for one feel the same in terms of my motivation and output. Literally a week ago, I went from feeling but mine was kind of opposite. I feel more focused and less discombobulated from the wind. But I wonder if it has to do too with just the temperatures. Living in Modesto, it's really hot in the summer, and it's recently in the last month we've had pretty nice days, but it's gotten to where it's kind of chilly and you have to wear a little sweatshirt at night or whatever. And man, it feels like everything is right in the world now when you can just regulate your body temperature. It's
I'm
like now there's
it,
extra.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great. It's great, especially if you are a person that likes to get things done, right? So,
exactly. Yeah, it's been a welcome burst of energy for sure. For people who are interested in learning about their type and learning more about this, there's a lot of quizzes online you can take to see what your dominant dosha is. So just Google dosha quiz and you can find out what you are. Along with the Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine is similar. So under that system, the fall is associated with the metal element, which correlates to your lungs and your large intestine. So it's kind of the concepts of inspiration and letting go. So breathing in the new, fresh inspiration and then letting go of whatever stagnant energy that you have going on left over from the summer. So I think like now, similarly to spring, is a good time to declutter and kind of like take stock of what's going on. And
can I just tell you that last night I organized my closet?
I'm
feeling like, yes, I was like, and it was like this random intuitive thing. It wasn't like I was like, tonight I'm going to organize my closet. I just walked in and I was like, I've got to clean this out. And I spent like, an hour just kind of like pulling things out, donating and like, then I like organized them by, and it was just this like, afterwards I went to sleep and it's like, I slept great. I cleaned out my closet.
Maybe that's why you slept?
Maybe that is. It could be some sort of, needing to clean out the clutter and get a little more organized. Don't look behind me because it's kind of a mess back there. That's my next project.
Next project.
Getting my office together. Anyway.
Yeah, I was reading one, I think it was like a meditation book or something, but it was talking about if you are having a hard time falling asleep, is it because you have a sink full of dirty dishes? And I was thinking like, maybe there is something to that. Like you leave tasks undone and they're messy tasks, it's like that can have a real impact on you.
Pouring some tea right now. But there's picking up some weird sound.
No, it's beautiful.
It's a beautiful sound.
That's cool.
Yes.
You're totally aligned with the season, the Chinese medicine way.
Thanks, Chinese medicine.
Yeah, the other thing they say about this time is that just with the erratic weather, the energy, the qi, which is energy in the system, is unstable. So again, taking the time to center yourself with your deep breaths, going outside.
That makes sense, right? For agrarian, the land is being tilled up. We're harvesting the air. I mean, here the air, there's like been so many fires in the Western United States. But this weekend was the first time our air was actually clean. And you walked outside and there were, literally in like 2 months, because there's been Redding fires and Yosemite fires and all these fires all over California. And this weekend was the first time we had these beautiful blue skies and the air was clean. And, they're having the almond harvest here in Central California. And so it gets so dusty. And I think it makes sense when you say that there's something about that harvest. And then really just the idea of, I wonder too, and I mean, this is just a question, that can't be answered by probably me or you, but my husband and I we do little like random occasional Audible book clubs because he travels a lot. So we'll listen to the same book and discuss it as a bonding as an attempt to bond when we're on the road. Yeah. See if that works for anyone. Just offer that up. Anyway, we're listening to Sapiens and, they're talking a lot about just there's, 10,000 years of agrarian society. And it just makes me wonder how much behavior is from our DNA is like where we're like literally wired to get like dead serious about work in the fall. You know what I mean? Because it's been, biologically we've done it for 10,000 years now to just, it's time to up until really the last 100 years, people were having to live in a very agricultural society. I guess maybe 200 years, but not even. And this idea that we've got to really buckle down, work hard, till the land, and that, now we're living in a much more digital technological era, but we still have those deep desires. And there's something about, I don't know about you, but like I go to Costco and fill up my pantry and I just feel so much better about life. And I'm like eating my healthy soups and, just
that makes total
that
sense.
energy of the fall makes me think, oh, I'm going to hunker down. Whereas, summer, I'm just like trying to eat ice cubes and sit by the pool, do what I got to do to stay out of the heat. Fall, it's like, I feel like, oh, everything's possible and I can work late at night and I can do all kinds of things because there's just this energy that's there. Anyway.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I bet there's so much of this is actually just genetic, what
you wonder, right?
What we've been evolved to do.
Yeah. Let's talk about harvest festivals across the world.
Yes. So, we can start in Asia. So in China, they have a moon festival on the full harvest moon, which is the full moon closest to the equinox. Mm-hmm. And they celebrate with moon cakes, which are these pretty little cakes. And then in India, they have a 9-day Hindu festival called Navaratri. I don't know. I'm saying that wrong. But it is to celebrate the divine feminine. And so they do reenactments of a goddess battling and defeating a buffalo demon. So that's cool. And why don't you go to Japan?
Oh, Japan. So I think it's pronounced Higan. Please forgive us if we are butchering these words. I apologize. It's a 6-day Buddhist celebration during the equinox to remember the dead by decorating and cleaning their graves, just like the Day of the Dead in Mexico. So there really is something. It's interesting to see. I know that there are so many cultures that say that the veil is very thin, especially during the month of October. And we see this with Halloween and the Day of the Dead in Mexico. And just this idea that, and even that there's lots of different pagan traditions and neo-pagan traditions that that's the day that your loved ones can come and visit you from the other side. And it's just interesting that people pick up on this across the globe at different times. And they've started these celebrations, well before there was this global community, and where, now we can just kind of Google something and find out about culture or book a ticket and fly there. But, for years, people have said, well, no, this is the time of year where you connect with your loved ones departed. And this is the time when, the ghosts and the spirits are out. And it's not, for some cultures, it's kind of a scary, spooky thing. For others, it's this very sacred way to connect to the people on the other side. Why don't you talk about Mexico, since you were just there and you lived through the Day of the Dead celebrations last year? And did you go to Chichen Itza? Did you and Danny go to Chichen?
No, we went to Uxmal, which is the other one over there in the Yucatan. Mm-hmm. It was really, really cool too. But the other thing about Mexico is that the Mayan pyramid at Chichen Itza, at the exact moment of the equinox, people come from all over because at that exact moment, a snake of sunlight slithers down the stairs of the main pyramid.
Wow.
It is designed so precisely that that's what happens.
It's incredible to me that that they had this geometry and the ability with no machinery to build something that is
Mhm.
so in conjunction with the universe and the planetary movement
Right.
that could happen. I mean, it's just mind blowing. Incredible.
Well, that's like all they had to mark their time and their year is the movement of the sun and the moon and the stars. Like they
Right.
didn't, that's what it was all based on. So like, yeah, the importance was just huge. They had all their minds together to figure that stuff out. Yeah,
It's
it's pretty
incredible.
amazing. The other place in the world that people gather is Stonehenge.
Oh,
I've not been to
yes.
Stonehenge, but you have.
A few times. I haven't been on
So yeah,
the equinox or the solstices, though. That would be kind of fun.
there's a big neo-pagan population in the UK, and I think people kind of gravitate towards there. And in that tradition, one it's heavily based around the harvest legend of Demeter and Persephone. And the focus, I think, with many people is this is like the time to notice, to one, celebrate the harvest like everyone, and but notice the balance between light and dark, and kind of begin to welcome in what is hidden, and begin your personal retreat inward, like into your own underworld, into your dreamscape, into the other
Into your
realms, and like moving
subconscious.
into the right. And that has to do with the legend of Persephone.
And Demeter.
Completely.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that or do you want me to do it? It's
You
up
can
to you.
tell the story, but yeah, but before, I just wanted to say that there was a happy little synchronicity about Demeter.
Oh, yeah.
Which was, yeah, she's the Greek goddess of grain, this mother goddess. And I didn't know anything about her, but where we're living in Valencia right now, we live right around the corner from a prehistory museum. And there were all these vases, like super old, thousands of years old vases of Demeter. And I'm like, okay, who is this? I need to figure out who she is. I don't know anything about her. So I go home and I'm in the middle of reading this book called Goddesses in Every Woman. And it's a psychology book about just the different goddess archetypes personified by all these Greek goddesses. And Demeter was one of them. And so I'm reading her story and learning all about her. I read all about the legend of Persephone. And then the very next morning after I had read this, I wake up to an email from you saying, hey, for our fall episode, we got to discuss Demeter and Persephone.
Woo-woo.
And I was like, what? Yes.
Yay. I love it when that happens, doesn't it?
On the same page. Yes.
I'm so happy I have you so that I can celebrate synchronicities like that. I mean, I just love that so much. And it's fun to have
it's so exciting.
Your group of friends who you can be like, oh my gosh, the universe. Oh my gosh. So yeah, that's great. Okay. So I became familiar with this myth. I mean, it's, probably heard it when I was a kid, but it came back into my consciousness about 2 years ago when I started going to the library with my kids to get children's book, Greek and Roman myths. And so I remember reading this book last year to my kids and they really liked it. This was an interesting a myth. And so anyway, in ancient Greek, Demeter or Demeter, who is also called Ceres in Roman in the Roman mythology. So the similar Romans just adopted the Greek gods. So it was Demeter in Greek mythology, Ceres in Roman mythology, which is she was the mother goddess of grain and the harvest. And Ceres is where we get the word cereal from. The grain. That was cool.
Yes.
So one day when her daughter Persephone was gathering flowers in a meadow, the ground split open beneath her, and Hades, the god of the underworld, abducted Persephone and took her down into the underworld in his chariot to be his bride. So she screamed for help from Zeus, but only her mother Demeter heard her cries, and she searched for 9 days to find her. So when she learned from the sun god Helios that Hades had taken her and that the whole thing had been sanctioned by Zeus, Demeter was outraged and left Mount Olympus and disguised herself as an old woman wandering through the countryside. So at the well of Eleusis, she told the daughters of Celeus that she wanted to work as a nursemaid. So they took her home and she cared for their baby brother, secretly feeding him ambrosia and holding him in a fire that would have made him immortal if his mother hadn't walked in on him and freaked out. So then Demeter revealed her true identity and commanded that a temple be built for her. I love the Greek gods and goddesses because they're so like, they're kind of like the worst of humanity, right? I mean, they're like the best and the worst. It's just everything is so heightened. It's like, oh, you found me and I was going to turn your child into an immortal person. So build me a temple. Like, what?
Right.
It's kind of similar to the God of the Old Testament too. It's just like, it's like hellfire and damnation. Like, you don't listen to me, I'm burning your city down, guys.
Very dramatic.
You can kind of see how like where Christianity spurred out of this concept of as in reaction to these very I don't want to say diabolical gods, because there's so many different ones. There's so many different gods that represent so many different aspects of humanity. But anyway, I digress.
Right. But they do represent the full spectrum, like extra horrible and the extra wonderful.
If you're looking for meaning on how to make sense of your reality, these do give you a lot of different. It's like, well, that guy did this and that lady did this. Okay. So anyway, finally, she demanded that a temple be built for her. And so when she sat down and grieved while the world, and so where she sat in the temple and then she grieved while the world wasted away in famine. Remember, she is the goddess of the harvest after all. And when she decides not to let things grow, then everybody dies of famine. So finally Zeus said, okay, I'm sending all of the gods to bring her gifts to try to persuade Demeter to do her duties on Olympus. And she refused, saying she would never let anything grow until Persephone is returned to her. And I like the power play, Demeter. I got to say, good power play there. So he finally sent Hermes to the underworld to take Persephone back to her mother. But before she left, Hades gave her some pomegranate seeds. Now, there's one part of this myth that we forgot to mention, which was Demeter told Persephone, do not eat anything that Hades gives you. It's like, do not partake of the tree of life. Do not do it. So he gave her some pomegranate seeds to eat. And as soon as she was reunited with her mother, Demeter asked her if she'd eaten anything. And she mentioned she was forced, that she did eat these seeds of the pomegranate tree. And so she was forced to then spend a third of each year back with Hades. Demeter said, fine, I will restore fertility to the earth, except for 3 months of winter where Persephone is back with Hades. I'm going to let all of you go hungry and freeze. And so that is that is the way the Greeks made sense of the seasons, and as to why we have to sit in the cold and why. So she was kind of the first, there's a resurrection story in there, right? There's so many themes in that story that I really like. So
there are,
So
it's Persephone's descent and rebirth from the underworld. But also, I mean, just the story is more about Demeter, but Persephone is like a whole nother story. She becomes the queen of the underworld, and she's the one who decided to eat the pomegranate seed. She wasn't like, she allegedly lied to her mom. She's like, oh, he forced me to eat him, but he didn't force her. Like, she chose. And I think she kind
of liked Hades too, right? Apparently. When she got there was a little bit of that.
Well, yeah, I think she kind of liked him by then, but
there was a little bit of the Stockholm syndrome.
That's a whole other interesting thing
with her falling in love with her captor.
Right.
That's an interesting myth too, right? Well, it's like maybe the first Eve story. Well, although I guess maybe the Eve story came before that.
Yeah, this whole story is the basis for like one of the most secret and important rituals in the ancient Greek religion. And they called it the Eleusinian, I'm probably saying that wrong, the Eleusinian mysteries. And so like the rest of the story is after Demeter gets Persephone back, she gives the mysteries to the people of that town. And no one really knows exactly what went on, because the initiates were, upon pain of death, not allowed to reveal what happened. But scholars speculate that they all do. Everyone knew that they walked from Athens to Eleusis, calling for Persephone, reenacting Demeter searching for her. But when they get to the well, they drink this barley mint drink, and people think that it was probably had hallucinogenic fungus in it. So after they drink this drink, they go down into a cave to do the secret part of the ritual. But all that we know about it is how happy everyone was who had done it. Like Socrates was an initiate, Plato was, and everyone was just saying like, oh, because of this thing, we can live happily and we're not afraid to die anymore. It sounds very similar to what people say after like taking
Or
LSD
ayahuasca.
or having ayahuasca experience. Yeah.
So it kind of shows you the underworld.
So I thought that was super interesting.
Wow, that is really interesting.
Yeah.
And so Plato and Socrates were both initiates into this kind of mystery. There were so many mystery religions too. They call them the mystery religions because we don't know that much about them, and they were done secretively. And so what was left is we're basically left to decipher from fragments of scrolls that are found, and then drawings and artwork, and the way that we piece the past together.
Right.
Very interesting. So, and I've having been studying so much of early Christianity, a lot of scholars talk about how much Plato influenced early Christianity. So,
yeah, that's all super interesting stuff. Yeah. So nowadays, the pomegranate is a major symbol of this time and this story because of the pomegranate seeds. Yeah, pomegranates are delicious. I've been thinking about them a lot because I was painting a little painting of them. And I learned that pomegranate is the symbol for Persephone, but also for Aphrodite. And I don't know why it's the symbol for Aphrodite too.
Who is the goddess of love.
I'll have to figure that out, but the goddess of love, yes. Anyway, totally besides the point.
Well, we do that sometimes.
I think we close out with sharing, why don't you share your tea ritual and I will share the breath
I love that.
Work.
Okay.
For like practical fall tips for balancing all of our vata energy. And
yes. Okay. This is not like some rocket science, thing that people are going to go, oh my gosh, this is so unique. But I will say, when you discover something that really works for you and you're like, it feels like a revelation, and it's just something really simple. So I started doing, I used to drink, I drink tea a lot. It was summertime, so I wasn't drinking tea in the summer. And I just started my little ritual up again when I got back from England. But what I started to do was I make it, this is just like a 5-minute thing I do now. And I'm trying to do it daily, but at least a few times a week, depending on my schedule, if I'm like running around 5 meetings away from my home. But I get a tray. I set a really pretty tea towel. I've invested in a few very nice patterns that I like, or artistic tea towels with little drawings that remind me of things that I love. And I'll lay the tea towel down and I get my little tea ready to go. And rather than just taking my cup and like guzzling it on my way out the door, I'll set out my water, and sometimes I'll have bone broth there if I'm drinking that in the morning or whatever that I have. And it's just like my little self-care ritual. And I take it up to where I'm working, or I'll sit at the table and I just like take a deep breath and I slowly sip the tea. And I really try to make it this mindful experience. And I really look at it like this is my very simple, but very deliberate self-care ritual in the mornings. And, I don't know if you're on Marco Polo, because we talk on Marco Polo, but if our listeners are not on Marco Polo, it's been like my favorite thing ever, because I've now reconnected with some of my friends in a way where we have these topical discussions going. And we were just saying, at this phase of life, we've had some good accomplishments. Our kids are here. We're married. You're kind of like in the grind of life. And you really start to realize how important just the like moment to moment, like creating little moments for yourself throughout the day. So I wanted to just invite our listeners that to create moments for yourself throughout your week or throughout your day, where they're just little things where you really take in the joy of being alive. And for me, it's like sitting with a nice cup of tea and feeling the warm water go down my throat and looking at this cute little tray that I've put together and really thinking like, I'm loving myself. I'm caring for myself through this little act of ritual that I'm doing every day to remind me of like all the, and I, you have like your gratitude thoughts and whatever you want to add to that. But to me, it's just this simple thing. And it literally makes me so happy every day when I look down at my tray and I'm like, look at my tray. So anyway, it's a simple thing. And I encourage you all. In fact, I have my tray and I have my little my tea towel from Bath that I bought at the Roman baths. And that makes me happy because it reminds me of that trip I just took. So anyway, why don't you talk about breathing, Aimee?
No, that's amazing. I think it is so important, especially something like eating and drinking things. That's something we have to do every day anyway. Why not ritualize some of it and make it as mindful as possible? I love that. And if, like, for people who don't like tea, try it with anything. You could try it with your little piece of chocolate or your, I don't know, whatever it is you want
Coffee.
to
It can be your coffee ritual.
special to you.
But the idea is it's not just like get it because you have to wake up. It's like I feel like it all comes back to intent, obviously, as it always does. That's, I feel like, a broken record. But yeah, there really is something about, even if it's just like your morning glass of water or like lemon water, like that's just something warm and comforting to just start your day and be like, oh, this is my time. I'm going to just ground into this moment. I usually do it. I get the kids off to school and it's always just like a tornado of strategery, of strategy, and just like chaos. And then they get out the door and then it's like, oh, okay, I'm just going to take 5 minutes for myself. Anyway, sometimes it turns into 30 minutes, but on those days, I don't feel bad about it either.
No, it's, you shouldn't. Absolutely shouldn't. So another little self-care practice that can help a lot during this time of year is alternate nostril breathing. So in yoga, the breath work is called pranayama. So this is called the Nadi Shodhana. I think that's how you say that. But all you're doing is closing your right nostril with your right thumb and inhaling through your left nostril, and then closing your left nostril with your ring finger and exhaling out of your right. And then you inhale in the right and then exhale out the left. Inhale in the left and exhale out the right. So do that for like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, however long it feels good. But this breath work, using the different sides, they say that it balances your nervous system. So it engages both sides of the brain and reduces stress.
Kind of goes back to that Shishamna idea, right? Where there's the winding cords down your spine.
Yes, the energy channels.
That's so cool. That I've done that breathing exercise before and it totally works. And when you bring it up, I'm like, why am I not doing that every single day for 2 minutes? I mean, it's stuff you can do for just 2 minutes at a time that can just completely change your life.
Really easy. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. And there's also, depending on whether you begin with the left nostril or the right nostril, one of them is supposed to be more energizing and one of them is supposed to be more relaxing. So one of them is in the morning time and one's in the evening. And I don't remember which that is. I think it's the beginning and ending with the left is the relaxing one. So I'll have to look that up so we can confirm and post that. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it.
Well, thanks for joining us this week on our and journeying with us through our little mythology / autumn equinox. We hope you guys enjoy. I know a lot of the yoga studios that I go to, they always do like 108 sun salutations. It's just fun. Like, find a way to ritualize and connect with the seasons where you're at, because we really do live in a society where it's just not, I mean, obviously we are so affected by the seasons, but it's not as relevant as it was. You know, we have so many things in place and we can just be on our phones and like on our computer and, you know, go into our air conditioned or heated buildings. And it's not as like dire as it was for our ancestors. So it's really nice, I think, to take a moment and really connect with the energy around you, with the seasons. And we hope you guys were able to glean something from this episode. And we would love to hear from you. Intentionists@gmail.com. That's Intentionists with an S @gmail.com. Send us your questions, or if you have any show ideas, we'd love to hear from you guys. And you can follow us on Instagram or Facebook.
Before we part, we'd like to say thanks for listening, and we hope you'll connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. We would love to hear from you and appreciate all feedback, shares, and likes.
To learn more and subscribe to our newsletter, visit Intentionists.com. And no matter where you are or what you're creating, we send you love and invite you to breathe and begin.
See you next week.